up? I'm Jay, an arts manager, educator, writer, musician, producer, and professional daydreamer.
And I'm Miguel, a musician, arts administrator, educator, and lover of all things nerdy.
And this is Playblack, a podcast dedicated to nerddom, reviews, and hot takes on arts and culture, and the human experience from the perspective of two melanated artists.
Yeah, just think of us as like your typical anime bros with like master's degrees.
And therapy. Today, we're going to have, I think, a really fascinating episode.
I think so.
As we both say in our little bio, we are both educators.
This is true.
And today is really for the love of the educators. So this is a brief discussion of teachers inspired by Abbot Elementary,
That's
obviously.
right. That's right.
But also our favorite teachers from anime and some shows and stuff that we grew up with.
That's right.
As well as our own educational experiences as students and as educators. Right?
Educators ourselves.
So it's going to be a good conversation. We going to call some people out too.
A little bit.
Yeah.
More you. I
I have feelings. You know what I mean?
Jay has feelings.
Yeah. So, but before all of that, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
What you doing? What you been doing?
I was inspired by Animal Crossing to learn a bunch of old bolero tunes from when I was a child. If you want more information on that, hit me up on social media and I'll tell you like the full story. But it's been nice actually. Animal Crossing is actually therapeutic in the weirdest way, and I didn't think I'd like it, but here we are.
See, when you try new things, look how you never would have imagined that Animal Crossing was going to lead you to like a deeper, renewed connection with like, your culture. That's like your artistry.
That is very true. That is very, very true.
How could you have known? How could you have known? I have been playing a lot of Baldur's Gate. Also kind of a new thing for me. I'm not a huge D&D person. The past like 3 or 4 years, I've seen little snippets of YouTube campaigns and I'm just like, most of what I'm seeing is too white for me. But I was just like, there's a version of this that I could see myself enjoying. Yeah. And so we did like some one-shots like with our friend Taniqua.
Right.
I feel like we should have every season like a tally of how often we mention her because I feel like we really do break our name up every season.
A Taniqua tally?
Yeah. A Taquali.
She's not gonna like this at all.
No.
She's gonna hurt us actually.
No.
No. Let's not do this.
I'm gonna ruminate on this.
Okay.
Yeah. And so Baldur's Gate is a video game. It just won Game of the Year, and it's in the world of D&D and kind of functions in that way. And so I've been playing both solo and with people, which is great for me because grew up as an only child, didn't really play video games that much because my mom said consoles break the television. And I think now what was really happening was poverty. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a little bit of Barbie, poverty.
And so growing up, I tried to rectify that, but I found a lot of games. The few times growing up I would play games would be if I was like visiting at a friend's house or something like that, and then we'd play something together. And so when I did start gaming, I was just like, oh, why are all these games like one player? They're all solo. And it seems like a lot of games today are made for that experience, but I love the experience of being able to play with each other. So literally after this, I'm going to go home and do that and play with some friends. But yeah, that's been really bringing me some joy. Yeah. So my character solo he's a druid, druid wizard. That's not true. No, it is true. He's a tiefling druid wizard.
A tiefling druid wizard.
Yeah, so he kind of looks a little bit like a demon. I'm not gonna lie to you, he fine as fuck. I fucked around and created like Professor Zaddy vibes.
Wow.
I'll share a picture here in the video of my avatar. And he's strong, he's badass. And then my campaign one is he's a bigger dude and he's a cleric. Yeah.
Okay.
So a human cleric.
You really got into it.
Maybe half elf cleric, yeah, but
look at us finding some joy in different games and not just anime and the like. We're actually covering something that's not animated and not superhero related, which is actually also something that is not.
Well, arguably very superhero related.
Look at you. Mm-hmm. Wow. Mm-hmm. No, you're not wrong.
Yeah. Today's episode is a celebration of that noblest profession. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah.
Abbot Elementary has provided like teachers with a pop culture rock star moment, which is really just awesome.
And long overdue.
And we decided that it was time for us to take a trip back to the classroom.
Yes, so as we said, we'll be sharing some of our own experiences as both educators and students.
Yeah, you know, you got to give some folks their flowers and air out some grievances.
Yeah. And finally, we're going to turn the tables on some prolific educators that we all know and love from film, anime, TV, and comics, and we're going to give them a grade on their educatorness and how effectively they educate. So after the break, we're going to get into the Playblack. See you soon. Okay, we are back and we're talking educators today. Yes. But I kind of want us to start with how we were as students. So I had a really interesting experience where my first 2 or 3 years of teaching was at the high school I went to. And so it was a very interesting confrontation of who I had been, who I was now. Some of the teachers were still there because it was really only like a 4-year difference.
That's insane.
Yeah, and so it was a lot of like confronting those things and then really thinking about like what were the issues that I had as a student and how did that show up in who I was as an educator, you know what I mean?
For sure.
So what kind of student were you back in school?
I was the student that teachers didn't actually know that I wasn't doing the work.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know, like I would participate a lot in class and I would answer questions, et cetera, et cetera. And then the teachers would actually like check with their like grade book, and then they'd be like, "Why aren't you doing any
What's
of the
going
work?
on?
Like, well, what is going on with you?" Yeah, I am now understanding that it was probably a ADHD issue that I've now been diagnosed with.
Sure.
But alongside just being lazy and trying to do other stupid shit.
Yeah.
So that was probably me. But I imagine that you were a different kind of student.
No. Not at all.
Not at all.
Okay. For some teachers, I was the favorite, and then for others, hatred. Just I hated because I think, especially by high school, I have a thing with authority where I feel like if it's being abused or used incorrectly, I will say something and I can be very stubborn. Okay. So there was always that part of just like, I never did well with like the dictator teacher and would let them know that. But then also like you, I didn't do homework. And so although I was very participatory in class, I wouldn't do that. And that would frustrate some teachers because they're just like, you should be acing this class and you're not, literally because you're not doing homework. And the reason I didn't do it was one, I was doing a whole bunch of other shit, so that was normal. Yeah, student government, being in the band, being in the shows, all that kind of stuff. Starting a peer advisor club, all that kind of stuff. But then also, I did not believe in homework. For me, I was just like, this feels like busy work,
right? And just to do it. Yeah. And what was very precocious and annoying about me as a student was that, in order for me to function well, I have to understand something. And by understand, I mean like I need to know how what you're teaching me and how you're teaching me relates to the thing too. Right. And so me and a theater teacher in particular, we got into a lot of like, it just did not go well between us. Yeah. I almost got suspended my senior year because we got into a fight. I had security called on me. No shit. I'm learning so much about you.
When I get pushed to a place, Miguel, you know, I get to a place. But what was really tough about our relationship was there was, and this is my Enneagram I talk about all the time, we don't like to be manipulated. We're very sensitive to that. And for me, when I enter into a situation where teachers already hold a lot of power, and a lot of them like to shroud their why behind because I said so, or because it's the lesson, if I don't understand and can't connect this technique, this tool, this practice into it, immediately I get defensive or wary of it, or I think it's pointless. And so I'm not going to do it. Right. And so I've learned for sure as a learner, I need to like walk me behind, tell me everything. I just have to understand everything around it. Right. So yeah, just, it was a balance. Some teachers love me and some, I was told a couple years after I graduated that the theater department referred to me in my last year as Napoleon. So
And you went back to teach there?
Sure
Like,
did. And I want to say, even though that was my senior year and they were calling me Napoleon, I still won like 4 awards. Outstanding in foreign language. I got the Shondell Mitchell Leadership Award, graduated with distinction. So it was just like, look, it was giving uneven.
Okay.
But, you know, I had haters, essentially. I had grown haters.
I mean, this is a perfect segue to our next, like, part of this. Like, was how you were as a student,
Yeah.
a reflection of who you are now as an educator? Like, who are you as an educator, Jay?
You know, I thought, so coming right out of college, in college, I was running this music group and I was a gospel choir director. And so much of coming up in that arts management type thing, it was a lot of like managing people and their behavior and having to be really intense about like, no, stop talking. Let's do it again. Run from the top. It was very like drill master.
Right.
And so I thought, and also I'm black, I thought that when I was going to teach, that was going to be me. I was going to be like, not taking your shit, let's get it together, let's go. And that was not me. It was like there was a huge course correction from college, and like it actually made it really hard for me to be a disciplinarian sometimes. So honestly, I was like the cool teacher. It was just like a lot of kids would stay after school and just hang with me. And it was important to me to do that because I felt like and this is part of why I left teaching. I was like, I don't actually care about any subject enough for that to be my motivation. What I'm really here for is for you all. And for me, the class I'm teaching is a tool for the real work of reaching you, of giving you a space to be seen, heard, felt, supported. Yeah. And I think that's the difference between teachers sometimes. They love the content. Yeah. They love the thing. They love the math. They love the music. And they want to like get people to learn that. And other teachers, I think, just want the thing. And I think the best teachers have a balance of both.
100%.
But I for sure was the one who was just like, I just want to be here with you, figure it out. One of my mentors was just like, you're hanging out with the kids too much. You need to like... When we're out, you're sitting with the kids and you're not like at the teacher table. And I was just like, well, no, yeah, I feel like that's a good thing. So that's part of why I left. But I never assigned homework. I realized that I did believe, actually, as an educator even, that was bullshit. And the research shows that like it does nothing for learning development. It does nothing to improve anything. I think the hope is that at best it's repetition for people to lock things in their mind. But no. So... yeah, as an educator, I think much more chill than I thought I would be. And still held on. I felt very validated in a lot of my experiences as a student. And then also recognized that I could have, as a student, been an asshole sometimes. So, yeah.
So you didn't end up being a Napoleon.
Absolutely not. Very opposite. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. What about you?
I would say I was definitely like, I'm definitely on the same wavelength. I'm still an educator somehow. Fostering trust and just like mutual understanding is just a huge part of what I do. And like, I'm always looking out for the students' mental health overall. And like, whatever the topic of the day is, sometimes that's going to take up more of what's going on. Cause like, it's real, you know? And I mean, I teach music specifically, right? So it's like, most of my students are not going to go to school for music. They're not going to become professional musicians. So music should be, in my opinion, like an exploration of like, or an avenue for you to explore who you are and strengthen up some, maybe some deficiencies or bring your strengths up to a whole other level so that you're just a better human being, right? So, of course, you know, sometimes you got to be tough and like hold folks accountable.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, it's like, if you haven't created a space for the students to grow, I feel like you are kind of not doing the thing. Yeah. You know?
What age groups are you working with now?
I've winnowed down my teaching a lot, actually. I used to have a studio of about 35 students. God. And that it ranged from like, you know, like a bulk of like 5-year-olds to like 12-year-olds, a couple of teenagers and a couple of adults. And now I'm down to 3 students. Wow. The pandemic was a huge part of that, for sure. Folks now wanted to go onto Zoom. But the students I do have, I've had since they were 7. And they are like going to graduate high school soon. And I have one adult student, shout out to Hemmel, who I met when I was teaching through a program at NEC, teaching doctors at hospitals as like a preventative mental health measure while they were going through the throes of the pandemic. So I have like one adult student and two young adults that I've seen grow before my eyes.
Wow, that's amazing.
One of them wants to be a music educator.
I love that so much.
Yeah, it's pretty
cool.
cool.
You sparked the next generation, and that's actually the next thing that we'll talk about. Yeah. The teachers that inspired us, our favorite teachers. Right. When I first started teaching, it was for middle school and then mostly high school students. Did that in the schools for a couple years, and then did a youth development program for another 2 years. And now, as an educator, it's aside from like the workshops and consulting that I do on the side, a lot of it is adults. And like some of it, most of it, I would say, is like mid to late 20s, early 30s folks. And then some folks just like any age. And it's so interesting because I knew that I wanted to work with high school age students for a long time. And now the past like 3 or 4 years of working with adults, one is fascinating because the support doesn't change.
Yeah.
And very often, like, you hit a certain age, people just expect you to know things. And a lot of resources for you go out the window. So it's been very interesting. And lucky we hired... we had 2 high school students working with Nam Nam for this year. It was so hard, Miguel. And I was just like, have I lost it? Can I not do this anymore?
Right.
And that was interesting. And I was like, I think the age demo for me has moved up. So that was very interesting. But speaking of which, who was the teacher that made you want to be a teacher or that really like gave you an invaluable educational experience when you were growing up?
Okay. I'm going to cheat.
Okay.
And say 2. I'm going to say one from high school, one from college.
Okay.
One from high school was Mr. Shapensky.
Such a teacher name.
Such a
that is a teacher name.
Such a teacher name.
That's so funny.
I was a complete slacker in his class. He taught sciences. He taught biology and stuff. And that's just not how my brain works. I'm not ready for that stuff. I was also not sleeping a lot in high school for some reason. So I was just always falling asleep in class, specifically his.
And you're one of those.
Yeah, yes, I was one of those. And instead of like, he'd like call me out in front of the class and stuff like that. But after like maybe the 3rd or 4th time, he was like, "Are you good?
Something's
like,
happening.
What's going on?" You know, and I was telling him like, I'm just not really sleeping, and all this other stuff's going on. He's like, "Okay, all right. I mean, like, if you want to come out, like, by after school and like try to take a nap, or like, you know," he was just really just like a really supportive guy, and I just really appreciated his like steadfastness, and he would also just talk to me like I was like a human being and not a child, which I really, really appreciated. He actually ended up writing my college recommendation letters.
Love that.
He's fine as far as I know. Actually, I talked to him in a couple of years, but he had like a traumatic brain injury and he had a lot of memories forgotten.
Wow.
But last time I saw him, he still remembered who I was. So it was he was a really cool cat.
Wow.
The other one was Professor Dan Lutz over at the good old UMass Lowell.
I hear a lot about that school now. I think probably because of Miguel and Daisy, but I'm like, it's
sense.
Weird to me how often I hear about UMass Lowell.
Yeah, I mean, you've been integrated into the fold of people who went to like an okay public school. Yeah. I mean, UMass Lowell's great, and it gave me a lot of the skills I have today. But he is the director of bands at UMass Lowell, and he was like, so he's the first like person that I truly interacted with, because like the first thing you do if you're going to be doing like band camp and stuff like that is go to band camp. Sure. And he's the guy, and he's a crazy person, and I think he'd agree with me. He's a bit of a nut, but he's also a genius. Yeah, he's one of those.
Two sides of a coin.
Right. Yeah. Just a very skilled composer and arranger. He writes most of the arrangements for all of like the high schools in the area, but also like composes like overseas and like has wind band pieces to his name as well.
Go off, sir.
He's a conductor, and he teaches arranging at the school. And yeah, like everyone thought I was music ed, that I was majoring in music ed because I was just always around music ed people, Dan included. And it was because he had so much information to give, and he was very inspirational. And he would just tell me things that I didn't know that I needed to know. For example, and we can do this now because we're on video. I used to like point to people, like, "Oh, hey, do this," or like this, whatever. And one day I passed by his office and I was like, "Hey, Dan," and he's like, "Come here,
Get over here.
come here. I know you to be like an excellent human being, and I know you mean no offense. When you point at people, it is like I just want to punch you in the face. Like stop doing that.
Oh boy.
Like stop doing that. Like,
Okay.
that can be very accusatory. You know, like do you see me pointing at people when we're in class? I'm like, no. I'm like I gesture towards.
But I said, did you change it to the open palm?
The open palm, the Clinton thumb, you know, like whatever it is. But like ever since then, I've always remembered that because whenever I find myself doing this or whatever, I'm like, nope, soften it.
Yeah.
It can't because it can come off in a certain way. And this is one of those like little things that he gave me. So
That's amazing.
yeah, those two. How about you? What are your favorite teachers?
For sure the most transformative, and I've already told her this. I wrote her whole letter and then all this stuff. So I feel good about that. She knows. It's Miss Friday. So she...
Great name.
A good name.
Great name. Yeah.
And she's like the Miss Frizzle of the school. Like she... I first met her when I was in the 5th grade. I know, right? I was in the 5th grade, and she was my social studies and science teacher. Somehow she did both. And knowing what I know now about certifications, I'm just like, was she double certified? And also now she teaches English. So I'm just like, does she have 3 subject certifications? How she just bop it around like this? Anyway, she was our social studies and science teacher. And she was that teacher that just made learning transformative. So like in social studies, it was, I remember we were learning about the Revolutionary War, and she was talking about the different fighting tactics of the Redcoats and the Minutemen, how the Minutemen were practicing guerrilla warfare and had less like ammunition and less things like that, but they knew the land and they were able to hide and fight. Yeah. Whereas the Redcoats had overwhelming might, but would literally march in like lines and formations. And so to help us embody that experience, we had a water balloon fight. We literally had to come to school in our like shorts and stuff like that. Yeah. And she would give the Minutemen more water balloons, but they had to stay in line. The Redcoats, sorry. And then the Minutemen, we had less, but we got to move. And to this day, I remember that the Pilgrims came over and that they had to eat a lot of like saltines and dried foods on the thing. And that's how I first had beef jerky for the first time in my life. Wow. And so it was like a lot of just as an educator taking these things and like really like using a lot of action strategies and tools. Like so that when I was in grad school, I'm just like, this bitch was doing this for like back in the day. Like old school, just like really great, making learning fun and really embodied. However, that wasn't just it. She also was the school's drama teacher. Cool. And so up until that point, I had been singing my whole life, and she like heard me say, I don't know how she knew I was a singer or whatever. She's like, yeah, I think you should really audition for the play. And I was like, play? No, I sing. I don't know what you're talking about. And she's like, you really should do it. And I remember the audition. She literally had to pause my audition and push my shoulders down because I had just been like this the whole time. She's like, I need you to relax. Start again. And I got into that show, and then we ended up, like a newer school had popped up. It was a magnet school. And so a lot of like local educators ended up transitioning there, as well as some students. So we actually both left my middle school, ended up at that school. And so she was my social studies teacher again, and my drama teacher all throughout that time. And she signed my letter of recommendation to go to Boston Arts Academy as a theater major. And so there's so many times where when I was with her, I didn't know that I wanted to be a teacher. But once I knew that I did, I knew that I wanted to be one like her. And so it was really about like, how do we take learning and make it a full-bodied experience and really craft memories that people remember and hold on to. And so love that woman down. everything I know about social studies and stuff like this now, like that stays in my head. We were writing our own letters of independence, and she gave us quill pens, and we learned how to write with quill ink.
Experiential learning. It's just like, no, it's
crazy. Yeah. So, yeah, she was wonderful. She was wonderful.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Now, I hate to do this.
No.
But let's
take the stage.
You just me? Okay.
Go ahead.
Ironically,
go off, as they say.
Year that I met Miss Friday, I also had a homeroom teacher, and she was my English teacher. And what was interesting about that class, she was a little dumb. Okay, and I can also say that because weirdly. You'll hear in a moment like some of the dumb stuff that she did, but weirdly, my class was the gifted and talented class. So like literally like every couple days we had another instructor come in and do like talented and gifted stuff with us. And so it makes me even more, I guess, she's a homeroom teacher, so she had to be, someone has to do it. But yeah, it didn't really make sense. So she was not a great teacher.
Okay.
We had some not great experiences.
Okay.
And I have a little bit of a message, I guess, for her or about her that I'll share.
Jay, the floor is yours. Please, just get it all out.
So I'm going to say this as respectfully as I can. This is dedicated to... And I want you to know that even 22 years later...
Yeah.
I'm standing on business with you. How embarrassed were you when a police officer, our DARE officer, and a classroom full of adolescent children laughed at you for not being able to spell ketchup? How are you teaching 5th grade English and can't spell?
Nope.
Why was you beefing with a 10-year-old?
A whole ass 10-year-old. Yeah.
How does it make you feel to know that 2 of your fellow teachers saw me crying in a hallway one day because you called me a liar and offered to throw you in a closet for making me cry? Do you know who one of those 2 teachers were?
Miss Friday.
It was for sure Miss Friday. Yeah. Also, what the he said it. I don't know whatever became of you, but I hope you either found some humility or a $19.99 subscription for Remedial Hooked on Phonics for adults who are left behind. Better yet, I hope you left the profession altogether, because after parents, educators have the largest effect in the lives of children, and you weren't someone that should be trusted with that responsibility. So, yeah, just I guess...
We don't drop mics here because they're expensive.
A final fuck you. But... Go with God. So with that, we're going to take a little bit of a break. Unless, is there anyone for which you have smoke that you'd like to?
They've already been dealt with.
Okay.
It's all good.
She's like, the God dealt with them already. Okay. Okay, so as I said, we've been students, we've been educators, and sometimes you become an educator after having been a student and you go like, oh no, y'all was really fucked up, right? Or like,
Facts.
That did not work. Why are you doing that?
Facts.
Why had you been like that? So we're now going to grade teachers. We're going to grade some teachers.
Fictional teachers.
These are people that you know and love.
Yes.
Okay, and really thinking about, and I guess this is going to be a solid grade for the cumulative kind of impact or nature of their educatorness, we'll say.
Right.
So first up, we have Severus Snape and Minerva McGonagall. Okay, 2 very different teachers, yet both very impactful. Sure. How are you feeling grade-wise for that? Yeah.
I think I got to give Snape a D-.
Okay.
I don't think, regardless of how you feel about someone's father, or whatever, I don't know. He is the epitome of that teacher that just like held grudges.
Yeah. How you beef again, like
Yeah.
How you beefing with a 10-year-old?
Straight up.
Yeah.
Like, and then he's he's conflicted. He saves them. No.
Yeah.
He was out for pain and blood
Yeah.
up until a certain point. And then he would be like, okay, let's actually protect the children.
Yeah.
Well, but that's not a good educator.
Yeah.
McGonagall is an A-. Like, she is a shining light of what it looks like to be a tough but fair and caring educator for me.
Okay. I mostly agree on Snape. I think, abuse of authority.
Yeah.
Third time, how you beefing with a 10-year-old. It's giving very much, if you were beefing at that wedding, you should have been beefing at that wedding. If you had a problem with James Potter, that was for James Potter.
Right.
Okay? Right. Harry didn't even, sadly, know the man. Barely met the man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
So, had nothing for that. And then also, for whatever little kindness you did show the child, to also be wrapped up in your love for Lily, also to me, just as fucked. You know what I mean?
Kind of gross.
And kind of gross.
Yeah.
And she ain't never felt that way about you, bruv. So.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yes.
However, I'm going to be a little bit more harsh on Minerva.
Hit me with it.
I think if we were to take the Voldemort out of it, like that time frame out of it, she would get a much higher grade from me for everything that you said. Very much stern and fair. Mm-hmm. The problems that I had with Minerva, however, were that there were times where I expected more from her to be a champion for the students. I felt like a lot of shit was happening to these kids. Like you have when Umbridge came in there, for example.
That shit was crazy.
Or wherever. Like there were just moments where I wanted her to stand on business a little more. Mm-hmm. And in fairness, there's some people who approach things of just like, I need to still be in the system to do everything I can to mitigate some stuff for it.
Sure. And
if I come out too heavy, too strong from jump, then I'm gone. And then who's going to be left for the kids? But the thing with having the Harrows in there and the later books and how they were torturing kids or bullying kids, never really calling Snape out a lot for how he was treating kids.
Until the very, very end, right.
And I'm just there was just moments where I just wanted more from her as that figure and it didn't give. So a solid B.
Okay.
But I expected more from Minerva.
No, I can get after it.
Yeah.
Switching over to anime.
Yes, and an exemplar.
An exemplar.
Yeah.
An example of how ridiculous concepts in anime can bring the most clarity.
And the most feels.
And the most feels. Mm-hmm. Assassination Classroom.
Yeah.
The wonderful.
Tentacled.
Yeah. Yellow.
Yeah.
Koro Sensei.
Yeah.
Which literally means kill sensei. Because he was teaching the children how to kill him.
Yes.
And he still gets an A in my book.
The end of that anime, I don't still know that I've ever cried as hard at anything from there. And there was one episode in particular that I loved the most. What was really great about that was it was an anime that was about kill the teacher and I'm going to train you how to kill me. But what it was really about was this was a group of kids that were left behind by a system.
Exactly.
The school that they were in were literally relegating them to be outcasts. They were like, y'all are the dumbest. Y'all are not going to go far and we're going to give you less resources and we're just going to, leave you behind. And the rest of the school is going to have everything and you're going to have nothing. But we're going to literally discard you.
Sounds like capitalism.
And those were the black kids, basically. They're coded as the black kids, right?
Right.
And I think what was so powerful about it was really a show about this teacher individually recognizing, understanding, and curating educational experiences with each individual child to help them find themselves and to help them grow. Yeah. And really juxtaposing the beginning of that show and who those kids were to the end, and we flash forwards a little bit and see what they're doing with their lives.
Yeah.
Just, I literally was watching the show I gotta be a better teacher. I
have the exact same
not
thing.
This alien yellow bitch outdoing me. He not real. And so
I rewatched this with another educator buddy of mine who I was living with at the time, and he was sitting here he was still kind of studying education. He was just this is a masterclass. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Of course, not all teachers can, run around at Mach 20 and
teach 9 kids at the same time.
Yeah, right. Individually, not in front of a class, but he would just run around.
He was so fast that he would somehow have simultaneous conversations and lesson plans with 16 kids simultaneously. It's okay, impossible, but
we'll take it. Assassination Classroom. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. It's a big hug of a show.
Yeah, A++ for Koro Sensei.
For 100%.
Sure. Let's see. Okay, we're gonna wade into the X-Men waters now.
Okay.
And Charles Xavier is interesting because a lot of these characters are technically teachers at one point. And they were also his students, and then they become his teachers. I thought, who really knows what they teach? What does Wolverine teach again? I've seen him teach everything from gym to fucking art history or something like that.
Didn't you say in X2, art?
Right.
He teaches art.
Okay. So I guess with this though, it's kind of like, to me, both in classroom that Charles is an educator, but then also did some creative youth development stuff by running a program for troubled youth to do community service work. Let's call that, right? So really thinking in that kind of broad scope of his educatorness. What are you thinking for Charles?
I got to split him up a little bit.
Okay.
I got to split him up.
Okay.
Because I can't divorce him from being the leader of the X-Men.
Okay.
And he's bad at it.
Yeah.
He's not how you just gonna let your boy? I know he's your boy from back in the day.
Talking about Eric. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but how you just gonna let him do his And he's he's a sympathetic villain of course
Right.
Holocaust survivor,
anti-hero arguably.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, but he tries to destroy the world daily.
Yeah,
and he's in Charles is just oh, my friend, yeah, well, we can still play chess. And I'm bitch, what? How are you gonna? So, as a leader of the X-Men, I just find Charles to be ineffective. Sure. So I'm gonna give that a C-. As an educator, every single time we actually see him teaching, he seems to engage students.
Okay.
Care about all of them.
Yeah.
He can literally read minds.
Sure.
So he really knows what's going on and what they do and do not understand.
Very invasive.
Very invasive. So I'm gonna have to give him a B+, A- area.
Okay.
I think as a teacher, someone who actually gives information to students and helps them grow, probably fine.
I'm gonna give him a D.
Hit me with what?
All around, and I think it's because the Xavier School is a different kind of educational experience in that they live there. And so I feel like it's really holistically not about, when you run a boarding school, for example, my dream, if I were to ever get my doctorate, I want to open a school. That's one of the last things I want to do in my life. And I was just that, and it would be a private boarding school for the arts that has a lot of focus on cultural competencies, and also not just the Western canon as it relates to arts, but really taking a global perspective to it, and obviously centering people of color, especially as the students, and obviously being affordable. So not a bougie elitist whatever thing.
Right.
But in thinking about that, I knew that if I were to study to build that, I would need to go around and really immerse myself in not only the academic curriculum, but how are we designing a space physically for these young people, and with their living arrangements, how do we train people to be those residence directors to provide that kind of experience. And so I'm saying all this to say, there's a lot that goes into it, and the whole thing now becomes a part of the educational experience that you have to curate. It's not just what's happening in the classroom. Right. And so for me, when I look at Charles and I think about where these kids are, what he teaches them about how the world sees them and how they should show up in the world, training themselves to come to terms with their powers and put themselves out there. I just see a lot of trauma with these people. I'm just there was not enough therapy that I'm seeing. Is Charles certified? Are any of these teachers certified?
That's fair.
It gives, I don't think so. I don't know that I've ever seen a guidance counselor there in any of the, maybe in the comics. I don't know. But I'm just where's the wellness team? Right? Because this gives we need a strong wellness team. Charles, what's going on? Yeah. And then I also think that Charles, wouldn't even consider himself the leader. He abdicates a lot of responsibility onto Scott, Jean, Aurora. And I'm just also problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not because, great. It's one thing to delegate. It's another thing to just hey, I'm going to give you some information. You go do what you want to do with it,
And a lot of those folks are unstable. So I'm just Charles, well-intentioned.
Sure.
One of those things where I'm just I feel you should have been the money and maybe sit on the board. And maybe, we give you the classics that you teach because you're old and British and white. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I feel we need strong administrative and curricular overhaul at that school for it to really be effective.
What is it? The Xavier School of Gifted Youngsters?
Yeah.
Yeah. It gets destroyed every 2 years. That's No, I'm gonna downgrade my teacher grade for Charles.
Because it's giving principal, superintendent, and teacher. I'm like, and you're filling out a lot of those, friend.
Yeah, it's not it. That's fair.
Yeah. Okay, last one.
Okay.
Actually, last one that we have 2 wild cards.
Sure.
Okay. Is Walter White from Breaking Bad as an educator.
I think I have to give him a B-.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Horrible human being.
Yeah.
By the end of it, I don't know if you haven't watched Breaking Bad, go watch it. It's an excellent show. Yeah. Every single, I'm just going by what we saw.
Yeah.
Every single time we actually saw him in a classroom, he was working real hard to try to engage the students.
Yeah.
Trying to make it experiential, trying to get them to come in. Before he destroyed Jesse's life.
Jesse had learned to make this because he was paying attention to that class.
Right. And I think his mom, Jesse's mom, mentions Mr. White saw something in you. He really tried to get you to come out of your shell, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So it seems like while he was dealing with all of that self-doubt and awful ego and mortality and all that stuff, brought him to the evilest place he could be in a lot of ways. I think when he was in front of his students and not dying of cancer and becoming a meth drug lord, he was actively a decent teacher.
Yeah, sure.
What do you think? Am I off
fuck
base?
That man. Yeah. No, because sure. Yet, I think some of the most critical and powerful educational experiences for young people sometimes happen outside the classroom. And I think for him to be with Jesse and do what he did with him.
Oh, yeah.
He was just selfish. And he prioritized himself and really fucked this kid's life up.
He did.
And I think when you meet someone, particularly if you're coming and entering their lives in the context of an educator, again, as I said earlier, you hold a lot of power and influence on how their lives can go. And I feel like he didn't try to save him. He didn't try to make him better. Barely even tried to make him a partner. He manipulated and used him and kind of built off his pain and trauma. And for that, I can never forgive you. So, Walter White.
Yeah.
A hearty fuck you. And an F.
Yeah, fair. No, Walter White.
Pre-cancer.
No, well, I gotta say Walter White in front of the classroom. I think it's different.
You think if Man Who Knocks decided, let me go pick up a shift, I'm gonna sub today.
But he would never. That's
why I say
that
pre-cancer.
guy would never. That's fair. Yeah. I just have this image in my, because when you watch the first episode, you're like, oh, he's really fucking trying. He's trying.
Yeah.
And these kids are not listening.
Yeah.
And that's fine because kids don't listen sometimes. And
Classic.
it's the teacher's job to get them engaged, et cetera, et cetera. But he's really trying to get them engaged.
Yeah.
And then he's still an awful person. The role of an educator, even outside of the classroom,
right.
I really hadn't put that in the score. He's awful. He's an awful human being.
And he's dead. And he's not real, but he's dead.
Spoilers.
Yeah. I mean, how many years has it been?
Some people haven't seen it.
That's your fault.
Yeah.
All right, our last 2 wild cards.
Okay.
Dewey Finn from School of Rock. Famous Jack Black character.
Yeah.
Classic millennial movie.
Yeah. I mean,
technically was a kidnapper.
Woefully irresponsible. Yeah. But great experiential educator. Those kids were passionate about what they were doing.
Alive. Okay.
Were they learning any other skills other than music? Actually, there are
very transferable skills.
Very transferable social skills, et cetera, et cetera. Were they learning any of the subjects they were supposed to learn? No. But is that the point of being a teacher? Debates.
Arguable.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna sit with the B plus.
Yeah, I'm gonna say A minus, only because of the kidnapping piece. Because I was just like, sir, lots of liability here. Like, I see what you're doing. And then also, his arc, too, of just, like, using kids for selfish gain, because he wanted to get his career to pop off.
True.
But I still think that he saw those kids, helped them develop, helped them find a voice, helped them grow their confidence. And that was really powerful.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
A-. Do not kidnap children.
Yeah, and like at the end when he's just teaching them at his little school of rock, that's exactly what you should have been doing in the first place, buddy.
Yeah.
Not
But
being
when those
Mr.
parents
Stevie.
came and were just like, where are our children? I was like, very fair. Very, very fair.
100%.
Yeah. Okay, lastly,
Yeah. What do you got for me?
Miss Dolores Van Cartier.
Sister Act?
From Sister Acts 1 and 2 and allegedly soon to be 3. Obviously, we're going to focus in on Sister Act 2 here. How we feeling about Dolores?
Plus. I don't fuck with Whoopi all that much right now, but like goddamn.
Hilarious.
Like yeah, man, that's it. That's like that's what you want. It's the master plan.
If you want to be somebody, or arguably I would say go somewhere, it's really important that you wake up and pay attention.
Oh wow.
If you want to be anyway,
Don't do it.
yeah, A+++.
Yeah.
I think
Amazing.
what I love, she was black as hell. Okay. She came in there.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of those teachers where there's a way to still be kind and see each student and help them grow and help them develop without having to be like sunshine, flowers, and rainbows. Arguably, I don't know that ever works, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think it's an oxymoron, and it was what I actually really struggled with, like having overcorrected into being super chill, of just like young people, particularly like that are going through so much, holding them accountable and sometimes being stern without being mean or cruel, is a sign that you care.
Yes.
Like you care enough to like be on me, and like you also think that I am capable of something more.
Right.
And I think that's so powerful for young people sometimes. And so she did not take any of their shit.
Nope.
But really transformed their lives. And to be honest, musically, my ear is impeccable, okay? It's one of the things I feel great about. I still sometimes am like sifting through the harmonies in that last Joyful.
Yeah.
I'm just like, y'all was singing down, okay? Yeah. So Dolores, she knew what she was doing, and she had those kids just singing and being great. So
100%.
Yeah.
Really quick before we get out of here, your favorite Abbot Elementary character, the inspiration for the episode.
Oh boy, my favorite Abbott. Ava's hilarious, obviously.
But is she a good educator?
Well, honestly, she has potential.
She has a lot of potential. No,
she has
right.
potential.
No, she meets
I know
kids
that
where
she
they're
has
at.
the desire to be better.
Yes.
She has potential.
Yeah.
And then I have another follow-up question after this. I would obviously say, Janine. Although I do want to punch her sometimes. I'm just like, girl.
Stop.
But she's so earnest. So I would say Janine. I think Janine's the kind of teacher that like helps you remember to believe in teachers because she cares and shows up so much. So
Yes,
just for the recharge, I would say Janine. What about you?
I'm blanking on Janine's mentor's name.
Shirley Ralph's character?
Yeah. I mean, like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, talk about like Black Miss Honey vibes. Like, oh shit, we should have put Miss Honey from Matilda on this, and the Trunchbull.
I would have failed her, just so you know.
Miss Honey?
Absolutely.
This is maybe.
Where was she when Pigtails was flying? Where was she when the chokies were being made?
You right.
She developed a spine way later after the children's. Don't get me started, Miss Honey. Okay, go ahead.
But yeah, no, she's like everything you want in like a kindergarten teacher, and remembers children from like 30 years ago, and like
God. Still
all of
love
that.
her.
Yeah, all of that beautiful stuff. I think she's great. I think her partner in crime, the white
Melissa?
girl, Melissa, she's hilarious
Yeah.
and also an amazing educator.
Yeah.
Them as a duo, it's like it's the epitome of like at public schools, you really get these teachers that
They feel so real.
They do. They do.
Like,
we all knew those teachers.
We know those teachers. Yeah.
Yeah. So
if you were on the cast of Abbott Elementary, who would you like? What would you be teaching? Like, what would your character be doing?
I'd probably be I'm just getting better at my classroom skills. I've always been like a small group or private person. In my current job, I'm actually getting in front of classrooms a lot more.
Interesting.
Which is interesting because I have to give like presentations to classrooms about like all the stuff that they should be doing, et cetera, et cetera. And I find myself feeling good about it.
Good.
And like working on it.
Love that.
So Mr. Eddie doesn't have those skills at the beginning.
Sure.
And like
he's like more admin.
Right. And he kind of gets there. I feel like I'd be a Mr. Eddie.
Okay.
In the middle of his journey.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that white boy, he's
Jacob, hilarious.
I think he's hilarious.
Yeah.
I'm not a Jacob.
about him.
I just can't be a Jacob. Like, he's obviously like he cares about his students, but he is
does.
just the epitome of that woke white person.
Yep.
And like it's the exact point of him in the show.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
I think because the school budget cuts, I'd be the guidance counselor and the choir director.
Oh, okay.
It'd be a little both. I weirdly think that I don't see, that's my one, not I wouldn't even say criticism, but I think room for Abbott to expand into the arts curriculum.
We haven't seen any of it. You're right.
And it's so interesting to me because I'm like, y'all are all artists. You know what I mean? Like, you are literally all actors and stuff. And considering how that is a thing that's cut from a lot of our schools, we saw a little bit with the STEP stuff. Right. But I'm just like, I would like to see the arts have more of a presence in that show. But yeah, that's why I would be. That's why I would be.
Yeah. I could see it.
So thank you to the educators that have shaped us. Thank you to the ones that were the blueprint. Thank you to the ones that told us what not to do. The one thing that I would leave folks who might still be on an education journey with is it's important that you really learn who you are as a learner and how you learn. Because once you get that, it kind of shifts everything. And you can begin to advocate for yourself and take in information the way you need it. And it can really just like change that whole educational experience for you.
100%.
Yeah.
For those of you who are in that musical world, like the first thing I tell everybody is learn how to practice. Because
I never did, and I hated it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah,
I think it's just repetition, but there's so much.
No, there's so much, and you can engage your mind in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And it's a lifelong journey and something you're going to work on for the rest of your life.
That's real good. Almost like you do this as a thing. Yeah, that's the real good one. And of course, educators, we see you.
Yes.
And we thank you. And again, this is dedicated to all of you. We know that people are fickle. We know that the top of 2020 was, oh my God, teachers. And it was like, teachers, let them die. And that's horrible. And we don't want that. And so to all of you fighting the good fight, stressing over these children, it's important. Yeah. And I know that sometimes the impact of what you do isn't always seen immediately. But I think we've been in the game long enough now, and we're not even in there. It's been less than 10 years to know and already see some of the returns happen and to see the impact it makes. You matter, your work matters, and the work that you do with these young people matter. And you are, I think, critical for the development of our civilization and societies. So I know a lot of us are leaving in record numbers, and there's a lot of systemic reasons for that, and we'll get there. But if you have it, hold on. The kids need us, and we see you when we thank you.
Yeah. And with that, thank you for enjoying this episode of Playblack. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a review. Especially helps on Apple Podcasts. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and TikTok, Playblack Podcast. Almost didn't say it right, per usual.
But you did.
You can also send us an email at playblackpodcast@gmail.com. Just let us know how much you love the show, et cetera, and we'll see you back here soon.
Bye.
Peace.